Thank you guys. Thank you for watching my video. So today we are going to discuss about the RPGLE and the programming structure of RPGLE, which means like if you wanted to write any basic program in RPGLE, and what would be the program structure and syntax you should follow. And also we'll discuss about the data types, opcodes and built-in functions. Okay. So first we'll discuss about what is the RPGLE. RPGLE is a programming language used on AS400 system. Okay. So you might aware of that very popular programming language which called Java and Python. So the same way RPGLE also programming language. It's mainly used in the AS400 system. And what is the use of this programming language? So which primarily for business application development. Okay. So which you can develop any business applications like banking business or insurance business or anything you can develop using the RPGLE and the AS400 system. So the RPGL is an enhanced version of RPG, and earlier it is a RPG. Now it is updated as a RPGL since it is having this some modern feature. Okay, and there's a several type of specification. What does it mean specification? You know that RPGL is a programming language, and if you wanted to write any piece of logic using the RPGL, you should follow the some specification based on your requirement. If you take an example, Java has some separate syntax to write the program, and Python has some separate syntax to write the any piece of logic. The same way, RPGL also have the some specifications. Okay, so what is it the those specification? So these are the specification which you can use in RPGLA. It is not mandatory to use all the specification, but based on your requirement you can use. But you should follow the sequence. Okay, for example, you have a requirement to you do not use the H specification. You can use only F specification or C specification. So in that case, you can first use the F specification, then only use a C specification. You should not use a C specification first and then F specification second. That is not correct. Okay. So you should follow the syntax, and if you don't want any specification, you can avoid that, but you should follow this sequence. Okay. And what is this specification? What is the use of this specification? We can see this now. The first we'll discuss about the H specification. H means header. Okay. So header specification. What is the use of header specification? For example, you have some program and you wanted to control the options globally, which means you have a 5,000 lines of the program and you wanted to control any of one operation. So, for example, you have some date operation. The- you have some date program. You are doing the some date format changes in that program. Okay, so whenever I perform the some date format changes, my date the date format should be in the some like star MDY or star ISO format, so that you can control in the H specification. Not only date format, it can be anything. Okay, the H specs or header specification for your program, and this is where you can set up the global option that affect the entire program. So what it is there, like the options like the program will be the batch or interactive mode or controlling the debugging options, and there's a configure special settings like decimal point alignment. So where you have some field and you wanted to align the only two decimal points for your entire program, so that you can control in the H specification itself. And how you can control this? Okay, yeah, as you can see, there is an example like debug is a star s. Okay, this is I'm controlling. I want you can debug this program, and default activation group is star no. Okay, it's basically related to the some ILE programs. Okay, so that you can, but there is a these are the some different kind of the options which you can use to control the your program globally. Okay, here you can see that activation group you can mention, and binding directory you can mention, and date format as we just discussed about the example. So whenever you perform that some date modification and you wanted to ensure that the modified date should be in the ISO format in my entire program, I can be change this date format in the any one of line in my program, but I wanted to control it in it should be in the star ISO format. That you can do by mentioning the date format in the H specification, in that give the which format you wanted to control it. Okay, here I can see the date edit. So when I do the some date edit, it should be in the star YMD format. Okay, So that I'm controlling in the my program. Okay. And also you can use some text. Okay, you can write some text. Okay, and the time format. So these are some different kind of the keywords you can use in the H specification. Okay, so now you can see the we'll discuss about the F specification. F specification. What does it mean? The F specification. F is a file definition. Okay, file definition is, for example, take an example of your business application. Anything. Okay, your business application is a banking. So there, my if you have a business application, you have a data, right, and you can store in the different files. Okay, structured file, and you might have the structured data, unstructured data. Even though if you have a unstructured data, you can filter it and you can make it as the structured, and you can store somewhere in the backend. It is the database files. Backend is the database files. Okay, so it can be in AS400. So we have a database files called the physical files and logical files and flat files, and these are the database files. So you store the data into the backend file. It can be anything, the physical file. So now you wanted to process it, the data. Okay. So you wanted to process the any one file of the data. You wanted to write some piece of the RPGLE program for that. So in that case, so you have to declare that file in the F specification to understand the program, which file you wanted to read it and how you wanted to read it. Either you wanted to read it in the input mode, or either you wanted to update that file, either you wanted to write any records into that file. So there is a three type of options, right? Input, update, and output. Okay. So how you can define that file, and in the F specification you can define it, and which mode you wanted to define it based on the your requirement. If you wanted to perform only read operation, which means only input operation, you wanted to read only the record, then you can preferably go with the input operation. And if you wanted to update any record information in your file, you can go with the update mode. And if you wanted to write any new record into the file, you can go with the output mode. And fspec define the files in our program which will work with. Okay, so whatever the files you wanted to work with, those files you have to define it in the f specification. We specify all the data sources in your program needs. Okay, that's fine. And describe how the files needs to be used. And since you are declaring the file, and you have to tell the program to how you wanted to use it, how you wanted to use that file in your program, either it is an input or output and update. Okay, and specify the file types like the physical files or logical. We mainly use the disk keys for the database files and work stn for the display files. Okay, in F specification, we not only describe the physical files or logical files, we also define the display files and printer files, right? How you can understand which that file is, what kind of file it is, either it is a database file, either it is a display file, either it is a printer file. So based on this, keywords disk and work stn, and for the printer file it will be the printer. Okay, and here you can see disk, which means the database file. Okay, and control how data to be read and written into the file. And here you can see the some operations which can perform through F specification. In this specification, we declare the files such as physical file, logical file, and display files. And we also define the sub files and printer files, which we will be used in the program. So what are the files you wanted to use in the program, that you can define in the F specification. And we can also rename the file. Okay. So why you wanted to rename it the file? For example, you have a one physical file. Okay. And you also have a corresponding logical file. In real time scenario, both the physical file and logical files and will have the same record format. Okay. In that case, the program will not allow the compilation if both have the same record format. In that case, you should have to rename of any physical file or logical file record format, right? So that is why we'll use a rename keyword. So where you can do that you can do in the F specification itself. And we can define the program described printer file as well. What does it mean, the program described printer file? So we usually define the printer file by using the strrlu, and you can declare that printer file. Apart from that, you can also the program described file also you can declare it here, which means the structure of the printer file within the program itself. Okay, and we can describe the externally and the program describe both the specification. We can declare only the primary file. So only one primary file, and we have a two types of file, right? And primary file and fully parser file. So what is the meaning of primary file? Primary file, if you declare it, you cannot break the sequence of reading or reading the records. Okay. For example, you have a primary file. Okay, PR01. and it is having the 100 records. And if you declare this PR01, you should read this 100 records sequentially. You cannot break the sequence, which means you cannot read it from the 50 record or 30 record. You cannot read such way. You have to read it from the top to bottom, and you cannot break the sequence. That is the primary file. What is a fully preserved file? You can break the sequence. Even if you have this 100 records, you can read it from the 50 record, you can read it from the 60 record, you can read it from anywhere by using certain operations code called CLLE SGT. So that is a fully preserved file. Okay. And we can define the secondary files as well. Secondary file nothing but there's a fully preserved files like, okay. And so this is a F specification in the AS400 in the file name. And basically you can give the file name and file type. Here it is a what type of operation you wanted to perform on that file. Here I use the I means it is only input operation, which means I can only read the record from the file. I cannot update the file. I cannot insert the new records into the file. Okay. And the file designation is a F means fully preserved. As we discussed here, you can mention whether it is a primary file or fully preserved. Since I declared as a fully preserved, the file 01, I can read it my own way, which means based on the my requirement. I can read it from the 30 record, I can read it from the 50 record, I can read it from the any way by using certain operations called CLLE and setgit. Okay. And here you can use the file format is external descriptive, which means the file structure is outside of this program. The file structure is outside of this program. Okay. And here is a record address type is k, which means the file having the some key fields. If your file having the some key fields, you can use a key k, otherwise you no need to use of the key. Okay. And device is a disk which tells the programs to it is a database file. Okay. If you use a disk database file, if you use a work stn, it is a display file. If you use a printer, that is a printer file. The device here is whatever you mention, based on that the program understand what kind of file it is. Okay. Here you can use the keywords as we discussed right now. Just you can rename the any the file record format. Here you can use a rename keyword, and here you can use a prefix keyword. Here you can use a extmbr keyword. What is the use of extmbr? You have a some multi-member physical file, and if you wanted to read the specific member data, you can use extmbr. Okay. What is the prefix means? And if you wanted to rename your file field within the program, you can use a prefix keyword. And you can also here use a file information data structure. So different type of keywords you can use with respect to the file. Okay. And this is a F specification. Next we will discuss about the D specification. What is a D specification? Okay, you're writing the program, you declare the file, but I wanted to use some variables. For example, I am doing the some calculation in the my program. For that, I wanted to declare the some variables within the program to hold my values. So there you can go with the D specification. D specification not only for the variables, there you can define the some constant, there you can define the some data structure and arrays. If you wanted to define the arrays and data structures and variables and anything, it should go to the D specification. So declare the variables that hold the data and define the data structure and group related data and specify the arrays, okay, which you can perform. Here you can see the myVar is the one variable. It is a yes for the standalone. Okay. If you mention the standalone, it is an independent variable. So where you can see somewhere you cannot see the s, which means that is a dependent variable. It is mostly related to the data structure field. Okay. And the 10a is the it is the 10 means the length of the variable. A is the type of the variable. What type of it is? Alphanumeric or numeric, or what is the data types? You can discuss further in this class. We have a separate slides for the data types. We can discuss it. Okay. For now, you just focus on the what is the D specification. D specification mainly use it to declare the variable, arrays, and data structures, and you can also constant. Constant in a sense that is a variable only, but instead of yes, you can mention the c here. C means the constant. Okay. And these are the some other points which related to the D specification. And he can declare the variable in the specs and data structure this subfields, and exported and imported variables. Either you can export the variable and import the variable. Export in a sense, this program variable you can use it into the another program if you use the export keyword. Okay. And that program should use the import keyword. And procedures and prototypes also you can define in the D specification, and standalone fields is the normal variables. And here you can see the D specification, and here you can define the name, and here you can declare the type, what type it is, a standalone. For data structure fields, for data structure subfields, you no need to mention this yes. and here is the from length, and for data structures only we can use a from and to length, and for normal standalone variables you can use the length. Always remember the length should be, this value should be start from the end of this line. Okay, and what type of data type it is, and if you use the data type ESRP, I should mention the decimal position. If you use the alphanumeric, no need to mention the decimal position because alphanumeric is a character, and here you can also use some keywords. As we discussed, we can also define the constant variable. For that, you can use the keyword constant and you can give the some value. Okay. So why the constant variable? So you cannot change that variable value within the program. Okay. So you cannot change that value. It will be constant. Here you can see E and S and U. What is a E? E means that is a externally described field. If you use the external described data structure, there you can use the E. Okay, and S and U, S for the program information data structure, and U for the data area data structure. If you use the U, that is the data structure. S for the program information data structure. E for the externally described data structure. So these three options are related to data structure. But if you wanted to declare only simple standalone variable, you no need to mention E, S, and U or from length. You can just mention the variable name, and the declaration type is a standalone. What is the length of variable, and data type and decimal position. If it is a numeric or packed, you can mention the decimal position. And do you wanted to give any keyword? Even while declaring this data type, if you wanted to initialize any value, inz is a keyword to initialize the value. Okay, inz. So like that, you can give the some by using some keywords you can give. Okay, and comment section, if you want to define what is that variable, you can write the some text. Next, I specification. I specification mainly used in the RPG, but in RPGLE we won't use this I specification. Okay, I specification, if any the old program RPG, there you can see the most of I specification. Like it is map the fields into the input file to variable in the program. Okay, so map the field in the input file to variable. Okay, now describe how input data should be processed. Okay, so that is the input specification, and here I don't have any screenshot for input specification. Next, C specification. C specification is mainly used for the algorithms and logics. Okay, for example, A plus B is equal to C, or example, number 1 plus number 2 result is equal to number 1 plus number 2. This is a one kind of addition logic. If you wanted to write this logic, what you wanted to do, you have the you want to number 1. Let me write it. Okay. So for example, you wanted to RES is equal to number 1 plus number 2. So to write this logic, what you wanted, you have a three variables. Okay, RES is a one variable, number 1, number 2, and you have to define these three variables in the D specification. What is the variables? RES and number 1 and number 2. You have to define it. After that, where you have to write this logic? This logic needs to be written in the C specification. Okay. So why these are the specifications are required? So that is how it is described. If you wanted to use a RPGLE, and this is how you should follow the specification, and this is how you have to write the logic. Okay. C specification contain the logic or instruction that tell the program what to do with the data. Okay. So it is tell the program what to do with data and what operations you wanted to do. Perform the calculations. It can be addition or subtraction, and the control loops concept and conditions, and execute. These are the some just simple example, and you can do anything by using the C specification. You can write any business logic here. Okay, and just go to the C specification. Here you can see the number 1. I'm using the add, is it is called the operation code, and what is the use of the operations code and what are things we will discuss it later in this class. We have a separate slide for that. Add is operations code. So since you wanted to add the two variables and we have a add operation code in RPGLE, you can use that number 1, number 2, and you wanted to store it in the number 3 is the result. And you can also write the same logic in RPGLE, like number 3 is equal to, simply you can use number 1 plus number 2. Okay, and if you want, it is a fixed format. Okay, in RPGLE either you can write the two ways. Okay, one is a fixed and another one is the free format. Okay, the free format, you no need to follow this factor 1 and factor 2, this operations, all those things. Okay, you can simply, you can just write the syntax. Okay, so this is how you can do, and later on this course you can learn how you can write in the free format, how you can write in the fixed format. Okay, and all the calculations logic will come here, and the file operation like read and write. We discussed in the before slide, right? In the F specification we usually define the files, and why we are defining the files, we wanted to process some data. So there is the file might having the some data, and we wanted to read it, and we wanted to write the some logic, and if based on that you wanted to do the some further business validations. To read and update and write operations on your file, you should go with the C specification only. Okay. And next, O specification for the output. Okay, where you have the some printer files. Here basically use the printer files only. Okay, O specification where you can define the printer files. Okay. So, and P specification, it is related to Pfizer, and this is the ILE related concept. ILE is a advanced version of the RPGLE. Okay, so RPG is the first, and next RPGLE, and next ILE. Okay, ILE RPG. So this is a very advanced version. So here you can define the prices and reusable blocks. Reusable blocks in a sense, for example, here you can see, so RES is equal to number 1 plus number 2. Okay. So for example, if you pass the 1 or 2 and 1 plus 2, if you pass 3 plus 4, the reusable, here you can you can pass any two numbers you wanted to addition and give the result back. Okay. It is a kind of reusable. And also in the business logic, what is the most reusable? GST. Okay, GST. Okay, so GST is a very most reusable logic. Okay, so that you can put into the any pricer, and you can use that pricer into the program. Okay, so this is the P specification for the pricer begin and